I complained about my noisy neighbor, then the hotel told me that room has been empty for 100 years. I don't really sleep anymore. I just lie awake and wait for the sound. The single tiny click of a marble hitting a wood floor. It started a month ago when I ran away to the Hotel Somnus. It's one of those old, forgotten places downtown, the kind with a name that promises rest, but whose hallways smell like damp wool and regret. I needed cheap, and I needed anonymous. After my life imploded, disappearing into a place that time forgot seemed like the only option. My room was 414. Of course it was. A sagging bed, a window that looked out onto a brick wall, and a stain on the ceiling that looked vaguely like a screaming face. It was perfect. It was quiet. For the first 2 nights. On the 3rd night, I heard it. A small, distinct click from the room directly above me. It was followed by a faint, almost silent whirring sound. Then a soft thump as it hit a wall. A pause. And then it started all over again. Click. Whir. Thump. Someone upstairs was dropping a marble and letting it roll across the floor. At first I thought, it's a kid. Some family checking in late. Kids do weird shit. I rolled over and pulled the pillow over my head, but it didn't stop. For 4 hours. From midnight until the sun threatened the horizon. Click. Whir. Thump. The consistency was maddening. It wasn't playful. It was methodical. A machine. I lay in the dark, my eyes wide open, tracking its invisible path across my ceiling. My teeth started to grind in time with the rhythm. The next morning, I was a wreck. I caught the manager at the front desk, a skeletal old man named Alcaius, whose skin was as thin and yellowed as the hotel stationery. "Hey," I said, trying to keep the desperation out of my voice. The room above me, 5113. There was a kid playing with a marble all night. Could you maybe ask them to keep it down? Alcaius didn't even look up from his crossword puzzle. He just tapped his pen on the newsprint. No one's in 513. I'm pretty sure there is. I heard them. He finally lifted his gaze. His eyes were like 2 piss holes in the snow. The 5th floor is closed for renovations. Has been since I started working here 20 years ago. The wiring is shot. He said it with a finality that didn't invite argument. I just stood there, my complaint turning to ash in my mouth. I must have been hearing things. The pipes, the city, my own goddamn mind cracking under the strain. I went back to my room and told myself he was right. That night, it started again. Midnight on the dot. Click. Whir. Thump. But this time, something new was added to the symphony. Laughter. A child's giggle, but thin and reedy, like it was being played through a tin can from a great distance. It wasn't happy. It echoed in the space after the marble hit the wall, a sound that didn't belong. I couldn't take it. I threw on my shoes, stormed out of my room, and took the stairs 2 at a time. The 5th floor landing was roped off with a faded velvet rope hanging loosely from 2 brass poles. I slipped right under it. The air up here was different, colder. Still, the carpet was gone, leaving only the bare, dark floorboards, and a single, low-wattage bulb threw long, skeletal shadows down the hall. Room 513 was at the very end. I walked towards it, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The marble game had stopped the second I stepped onto the floor. It was like it knew I was there. I stood in front of the door and listened. Nothing. Just the hum of the old building around me. I reached out and tried the handle. It turned. The door was unlocked. It swung open without a sound into a gulf of absolute black. A smell rolled out, thick and sweet. The smell of decay and old dirt. "Hello?" I whispered. My voice sounded small. A shape shifted in the far corner of the room. A deeper darkness against the black. "He's shy," a man's voice rasped from the dark. It was low and gravelly, like stones grinding together. "He doesn't like to be watched when he's playing." My heart hammered against my ribs. I couldn't see anything. Not the man, not the child, just the vague outline of a high-backed chair. I'm sorry to bother you," I stammered. "It's just the noise. It's every night. I work in the morning. A long silence stretched out. I could hear him breathing. It was a wet, ragged sound. He needs his games, the voice said. It wasn't an apology. It was a statement of fact. It's all he has left. Beside the chair, a smaller shadow moved, just a flicker. He gets so lonely, the man continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Especially when we have a new neighbor. Someone downstairs. The way he said downstairs made every hair on my body stand on end. I took a step back, my hand fumbling for the doorframe. I should go. He doesn't mean any harm, the voice said, a little faster now. He just wants you to hear him. He wants you to know he's here. I didn't say anything else. I backed out of the room, pulled the door shut, and fucking ran. I didn't stop until I was back in 4113 with the deadbolt thrown and a chair jammed under the handle. I sat on my bed shaking for the rest of the night. The silence from above was worse than the noise. The next night, it came back. But it was different. It wasn't the marble. It was a frantic scraping sound, like fingernails dragging across the floorboards. He would race from one end of the room to the other, followed by that same horrible, tinny laughter. And then, a sound that made me want to vomit. A series of heavy, wet thuds against the floor. My floor. The ceiling above my head. Thump, thump, thump. Like someone was dropping a sack of meat over and over. I snapped. I grabbed the heavy iron fire extinguisher from the hallway and went back upstairs. I didn't knock this time. I kicked the door to 513. It flew open, slamming against the inside wall. I flicked on my phone's flashlight. The beam cut through a cloud of dust so thick it looked like smoke. The room was empty, not just of people. It was stripped bare. No furniture, no chair, no peeling wallpaper. Just 4 bare walls and a floor covered in a century of filth. The window at the far end was boarded up from the inside. My light swept across the floor and stopped. In the very center of the room lay a single, small, glass marble. It was clean. Polished even. It gleamed in the light, completely out of place in the grime. As I stared at it, a floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around, extinguisher held like a weapon, and screamed. It was 2 cops. The manager, Alcaeus, must have called them when I took the extinguisher. They looked at me, then at the empty room, their faces a mixture of pity and annoyance. They took my statement in the hallway while Alcaeus wrung his hands. They were condescending, talking about stress and the tricks old buildings play. One of them went into the room with a heavy-duty flashlight, kicking at the floorboards. "Nothing here, ma'am," he called out. "Place looks like it hasn't been touched in 50 years. But his partner, the older one, was quiet. He kept staring at the threshold of the room, at the line where the dusty floor met the slightly cleaner hallway. "The door was unlocked when you came up here last night." He asked me, his voice low. "Yes. And tonight?" "It was locked. I had to kick it in." He nodded slowly, looking back at his partner. "Hey, Ortiz, come look at this." Ortiz came out, dusting off his hands. The older cop pointed at the door lock. It was an old-fashioned mortise lock, the kind with a heavy, solid bolt. "It's thrown," the old cop said. "From the inside." We all stood there staring at it. The heavy bolt was slid deep into the door frame. There was no way I could have kicked that open. No way at all. They made me go back to my room. They stayed up there for another hour, and I could hear them talking in low murmurs, the occasional crackle of their radios. When the old cop came down to talk to me again, his face was pale. "We're sealing the floor," he said. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "The manager is closing it off. For good this time." "What did you find?" I asked. He hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's probably nothing. Old buildings, you know." But he was lying. His hands were trembling slightly. "Look," he said, finally looking at me. "We pried up some of the floorboards. Underneath them, in the subfloor, we found some things." He swallowed hard. "We found the remains of a small child. And a man. Hard to say how long they've been there. A long, long time. The coroner will have to figure it out." My blood ran cold. The man and the boy, his eyes widened. "How did you know?" I couldn't answer. He took a deep breath. "The kid, His bones were all bundled up with this old rotten rope. In his hand, he was clutching this. He held up an evidence bag. Inside was a small, tarnished silver locket. "We opened it," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "There's no picture left. It's just dust. But scratched on the inside are two names, Cassian and Lev. And a date, 1923. He looked up from the locket, his eyes locking with mine. "There's one other thing," he said. "We're not putting this in the report. The floorboards, right where you said you saw that marble, they were worn down. Worn smooth in a perfect circle, like something had been dropped and rolled in that exact same spot. For years, for decades. He left then. I packed my bags in the pre-dawn gloom and got the hell out of the Hotel Somnus. I don't sleep in my new apartment. It's too quiet. I just lie there, in the silent, sterile dark, and I listen. And sometimes, when the city outside is completely still, I hear it, faintly, from the apartment above mine, a low, gravelly whisper that curls through the vents. He just wants you to play, too.